Hey everyone! Welcome back! I am back today with more of Reading Steel Ball Run, you guys. Oh, this batch of chapters. I swear there are so many, like, things that happen in the series where they just like, do me in. And I'm so sad. And I'm sad for, like, days about it. I don't know how, I don't know how, but I will get into it. We have a couple things to cover first. Before I get into everything, I do just want to say if you're joining me early today, you know just what that means. It means you are one of my awesome patrons. Thank you so very much. And as always, I am sending up those big old hugs right through that screen. And if not, still, thank you for joining me today. I am glad you're here. I do hope you'll consider supporting me that way. The link to my Patreon is going to be in that description down below. And if you are watching on those YouTubes, I hope you'll hit like and subscribe for me. It does help me and my channel a whole lot. Thank you in advance for that. Okay, we have a couple things to go over first before I get into the next 5 chapters, 26 through 30, because good God, they were just so good in so many ways, you guys. We had a lot. We're going to have a lot. And once again, it's the last chapter. Like, I don't know how this is working out so perfectly. Maybe it's just like there's so much going on that it's statistically possible that, like, every 5th chapter is just like the perfect ending spot where it's like, so much just happened. There's a huge cliffhanger and yeah. But we're going to get a lot in this one. We're going to get a lot of good Johnny and Gyro stuff. We're going to get a lot of good action. We're going to get some info. We're going to get some reveals. We're going to get some developments. We're going to get a lot of that stuff. And we're going to get a big old backstory. And wow, just wow. So before I get started, I want to address a couple things. So in my last reaction, I was like, I kind of knew more or less what they were getting at. I'm like, okay, so you have Joseph of Arimathea, prepared Jesus' body, made a map. They're using the map to get to what they're referring to as corpse parts. And they never come out and say it in those chapters. They actually haven't yet in these chapters I'm reading. But you guys confirm for me in the comments, yes, they are referring to Jesus. And just reading it, I was just like, I wasn't even sure because A, they didn't say it, and B, I'm like, are we really going that bizarre? Are we really going that bizarre right now that we are attempting to make Jesus a Jojo reference? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. We are absolutely getting that bizarre. So there you have it. Just, I guess, confirmation. I am glad that you guys confirmed, even though, like, it hasn't been outwardly said in the manga yet, because there are some things in these chapters, I think I would have been kind of confused, like, if I didn't know for sure. Like, from the clues they gave us in last batch, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is what we're doing. But then, like, this batch, you say a couple things, and I'm like, so wait. So I'm glad that you confirmed it for me. But yeah, guys, yes, that's the thing. And that's what we're doing, apparently. So the other thing I wanted to mention was in the it was the last chapter that we read. We have the scene with the new villain, with the president, and we have the scene where, like, Lucy spills some coffee, and it's this big tense scene, and something is on the roof, and, like, somehow the coffee, like, it's a whole thing. And then Lucy looks out the window and sees this shape, and it doesn't, to me, look like a human shape. It looks humanoid, but it looks more like a stand. And you guys did mention in the comments, like, stands don't have shadows. And I was like, well, maybe the stand is a shadow. But then it's like, well, Lucy probably is not a stand user. Like, we don't know that for sure. But, like, I'm willing to guess, like, at least as of right now. Like, maybe they'll make her one later. But I don't think she's a stand user. I could be wrong. So I guess that wasn't what that was. I was just assuming that, like, you know, a kind of a freaky looking shape. So I don't know if that was just one of his, like, people doing an elaborate trick on the roof with some coffee. to try and intimidate people. I don't know. If it feels like the Dio stairs thing. It feels like you probably didn't have to do this, but just to be petty and somewhat intimidating, you did. And congratulations. So, so that's what I want to say about last time. I don't think I have any. I do have some new Jojo merch, but I'll probably show it off in my Rohan live action reactions. I will just show you that I have my new Giorno earrings on. The little ladybugs with hearts are so cute. And the hearts are so perfect because at first I'm like, oh, that's cute. They just put a heart on it to be cute. And it's like, oh my God, that's the window. Of course it is. All right, guys. So we just have so much going on right now. I'm trying to figure out. I feel like there's something in the last one that I may have left out of my notes, and I'll just try to remember to mention it really quick. It's not a big thing, but if I miss something, you know, by all means, please, please let me know. Like, hey, by the way, this happened. This is a big. I'm usually pretty good about it. I try to take really good notes. I do screenshots while I'm doing the notes, so I have like the visual, and I have to like think about it enough to put it into my own words. It's like a little book report. I did want to say, I think I'm going to do this one a little bit different, and I think I'm going to comment after each chapter. Now, I usually don't do that because the chapters flow so into each other, and these do, but they're separate enough that I think I want to take the time to like comment in between each one, especially since there's so much going on. And the last chapter is just so monumental that like, I don't want to get to the end and be like, let me go through everything else first. You know what I mean? All right. So where we left off, Gyro just got taken. He just like disappeared. His horse disappeared. His gear disappeared. Well, now whoever did that is attacking Johnny too, and his horse disappears, and he looks in the air, and don't forget we saw like feathers last time and everything when all this was happening. He sees a feather in the air, and the feather turns into a hook, and it hooks his cheek, and of course immediately I thought of Beach Boy. Which we had who was it? It was I almost called him Whole Horse. Mountain Tim. It was Mountain Tim who had the one that like was sort of like Sticky Fingers, Beach Boy, and what was the other one I said? I can't remember now. But I was like, oh, it's kind of like a couple of different stands. Anyway, I was not to get into Mountain Tim, but I hope Mountain Tim's okay, by the way. Last we saw him, he was in pretty bad shape, and here's just hoping he's recovering well. All right, so yeah, the hook, he gets his cheek hooked. He tries to cut this like long wire that has the hook on it with his stand, and he can't. And then the feather starts to take his stuff away, and more feathers and hooks appear. And Johnny decides, I gotta get out of here. Like, he's being attacked fast. He's like, I'm gonna hide under a rock. And he kind of like, I think he kind of like ran along his nail saws to get there, which I think is kind of cool. It's like, I don't know. It's because we know he's not able to walk. And so I just thought that was a clever way to do that. So the hooks are still trying to get him even under the rock. He's trying to figure out, like, what do they want? Like, if they want me out of the race, they have my horse. And if I don't have my horse, then I'm out of the race. So, like, what could they possibly want now? And he's like, wait, are they searching for the arm? And Johnny's still, like, really confused about the arm. He doesn't know whose arm it is. He's, like, half thought that he was hallucinating the first time he saw it. And that's when we actually get to see our latest enemy, who's, like, a kid. He's, like, a boy. And he's a real piece of work. He's, like, I mean, he's just so wound up. And he's so, like, he's really something. I don't know. He's, like, he's, like, a kid. And he's, I don't know, he's kind of like the anti-Boingo. Because remember, Boingo was, like, really kind of, like, shy and, like, super, like, reserved. And, like, didn't really, you know, he didn't really want to do too much with anyone except for Oingo. Yeah. This kid is like if you mainline sugar into Boingo. He really is nothing like Boingo. I don't know why. You know, little kid, of course, that I thought of him. Okay, so he's going through Johnny's bag. He's like, breaks a pad and is like slurping the ink. I mean, he's just like, it really is just like he just got a hold of like 10 pixie sticks and he just went to town. That's what it's like. He had, oh, this is so gross. He has Gyro strung up on a tree by his hair. for anyone who has long hair, or hair long enough to do this too, I guess you have to be like pretty long. Can we have a collective for this? Like, this guy's literally hooks are part of the stand. You could not have hooked his shirt and you really had to do his hair? Like, it's unnecessary cruelty. Okay, but Gyro still has a ball right near him. So we cut back to Johnny. Johnny doesn't know what to do. And he's like, he's under this rock. He's like, what do I do? He sees a beetle and he's like, sorry, this is my hiding spot. And the beetle turns into a hook and hooks him. So that's when he realizes the stand is not just feathers, it's anything. Anything can be used as a bait or a lure to like turn into a hook and hook your, yeah. So Johnny's like, you know what? Fine. I'll just, if they want this hand so bad, like, I'm just going to give it to him. So he's about to do that when something happens. Something emerges out of his arm. A stand-like figure. And it is the cutest little pink baby you've ever seen. When we were having the cutest stand discussion, like, I don't even know when it was. It was back in, God, was it part 4 or 5? Because I feel like someone mentioned Sex Pistols, and I already knew what that was. So I feel like maybe it was part 5. Or maybe we had 2 different discussions. I don't remember. But this little baby needs to be high in the running because it's just the cutest little thing. And it's going to do little sad eyes. It's like, oh, love me. It doesn't say that, but it's saying it with its eyes. Like, for sure. So it keeps on saying these words over and over, and I hope I'm saying this right. Moive Cruz? I'm sure that's horrible, sounds terrible, but I'm sorry. I did my best. So it's kind of like just kind of dancing around him and just like saying the words, and finally like it whispers and taps his foot, and now he has toenail saws. Now he has toenail saws, you guys. So the little saws start shooting out and they attack the stand user, and Johnny is like, he can't believe it because he's like, this shouldn't, like, my legs don't work. Like, this shouldn't be a thing. And that's when the little baby carves these words into his arm, the words that it keeps on saying. So Johnny's like, okay, this is where he realizes there's way more to this. There's people after him. There's Gyro and all the stuff going on with his country. There's this whole race in general, like something's not right. And like, there's more going on here, which we know there is. So he puts together that if he has the arm, there must be other body parts. And if you put them together, it makes a full body, which makes sense. What it does, I don't know. Like, clearly there has to be some great power achieved when we assemble all the parts of this body. But, like, that's not revealed in these chapters. I'm sure that's, like, an end game kind of thing. He puts together, that must be the real reason of the race, is to find the body parts. And he's like, he's wondering if Gyro's in on it. He's like, has Gyro been after this too the whole time? And we know he isn't, but like, it's, it's not a bad thought to have, I guess, if you're, if you're Johnny. So that's when he realizes that one of Gyro's steel balls is right near him. And, Yep, so the kid figures out what Gyro was doing with it. He was trying to send a message to Johnny with the ball. So Johnny puts together, Gyro just used this ball to, like, lead me to this enemy. And that's when he realizes, like, Gyro's trying to help me. Gyro's good. We love Gyro. And I'm like, yes. I have hearts all over my notes here because a million times yes. And it gets better, too. Just wait. So he's like, you know what? I'm not going to hand this over. No, thank you. He's like, gives this huge inspiring thing about how, like, this has become his hope. And, like, he and Gyro in on this, they're in it together. And he's going to find Gyro and save him, and he's going to get the corpse parts. And, like, he just has, it's really, really inspiring. It's a great moment where, when we find Johnny, it feels like he's been pretty lost for a while, I'll be honest, And that's, oh no, we're not really, yes, we are at the end of the chapter. So, okay, before I get into it, I'll just say Finn, that's the end of the chapter. And I want to talk about that scene with Johnny, because when we first meet Johnny here, yeah, he's pretty lost, like, he clearly was not being the greatest person before he was shot and everything. And it doesn't really seem like he is doing all that great. Like, he's really just focused on, you know, getting more info on this whole spin thing. Like, he really just needs to be able to think that there's hope for him, is kind of what I took from Johnny's story. And here we kind of see him starting to realize that, you know, like he has this ability. He's kind of been tasked with this, whether he likes it or not, of having this arm. Like, the arm chose him, like it really did. He didn't even know what was happening. And he has this ability. He's able to actually, in a way, like move a part of his lower body again, which is a really big deal and what he kind of set out to do in the first place anyway. And I really love that. And I love that he realized, like, you know what, like, Gyro's on my side. I'm going to be on his side. I think in a race like this, and also just like in life like this, I feel like it's, I don't know. I feel like there's a kind of this air of like being a little bit like self-centered, of like, you know, it's obviously it's competition. So it's still like every person for themselves a little bit, but after what they've been through up to this point, I really love that Johnny is realizing like what Gyro means to him. Maybe he didn't word it quite that sappy, but it's pretty much what he's saying. So a really great chapter. We get the first appearance of sweet little baby Stan. So we had seen the nails, we'd seen the arm, and we knew the arm was not the stand. Now we actually get to see the stand. I'm told that the stand will change over time, and I do believe that these chapters even have like, I'm trying to think, do they have the Act 1, or did somebody just tell me that? I think they have Act 1 in the chapter title. So like we kind of know, just based on like echoes and everything, there'll probably be more development to this stand. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy the sweet little pink baby. He's just like this little pink baby bird thing that's like covered in stars, and he's such a cutie pie. And I just love him. I need a plush immediately. I immediately need a plush. So yeah, and of course we have the words, which at this point we don't know what they mean, but they seem pretty important. So basically this is kind of a big, like, Johnny kind of catching up with the whole situation, and the stand emerging. And the really great moment at the end. All right, so on to chapter 27. We, for the first time, I feel like this is the first time I've seen this. Correct me if I'm wrong. We get a little stand stats page, like a little character in stand stats page. And I feel like we hadn't gotten that, because I feel like every time there was a stand, unless they said it, like you guys had to like give me the stats. And I was like, I don't even know what the name of this is. I don't know what I don't know anything about it. Like, I know what it does because they showed it obviously, but yeah, so we get a little stats page, and we find out our enemy is called Pork Pie Hat Kid, which there's no way I'm going to be able to say that every single time, so I'm probably just going to say kid or PPHK. So the kid's going crazy in this next chapter. Like, he's looking for Johnny, and he's looking everywhere. He splits a snake. It's so gross. I'm not even going to include a screenshot. It's so gross. And he's like, this is terrible, but also like he's having fun. Like, he's kind of getting into it. Like, he's out there. He's out there a little bit, a lot maybe. So at this point, Johnny's totally buried in the sand. He thinks that he's lost the kid, since they can only like see an attack from above. But the kid is thinking, like, he might be out there, but he's not stupid. And he sends Johnny's horse, because the horse will, like, go right back to their owner, parent, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. With Buffy, I never call myself her owner. I'm her parent. I'm her person. I'm her butler. I'm chauffeur, but I'm not her owner. But yeah, I guess in this case, yeah, it's his owner. So the horse is like basically leading the kid to Johnny. Yes. So then we see like this liquid spill, and I'm guessing it's something flammable. Maybe like they don't really say what it is, but I think it's like maybe gasoline. I don't know, something flammable. And the kid sets this huge fire, And he's like, you know what? I'm going to let you burn up a little bit, and then I'll go in when you're a little bit crispy, and I'll get the arm. And you see like a body in the fire, but it turns out Johnny carved a body double out of wood with his nails. And I'm just like, every time we see someone use an ability in this, they're just like using it in a more and more clever way. Like I can see, like, I feel my IQ rising as I read this. It's so freaking clever. And he announces that he's decided to call his ability Tusk, which I think is kind of a cute name. I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cute for a cute little pink baby. And also, you know, for the nails and everything. So he starts firing the nails off at the kid, and the kid gets wrecked. He goes to Gyro when he notices there's a hook in him. And so it turns out the kid is not wrecked. The kid reemerges. He's all jacked up, but he's like, guess what? Gyro was the ultimate bait. I kept him alive for this reason. So the kid starts, there's no way to describe, this is the way that they describe this, and I'll put up the screenshot. He starts dragging Johnny into Gyro, like he's like stabbing through his insides. And Johnny's trying to shoot the kid, but it doesn't work, like with his nails. He's telling Gyro, like Johnny's telling Gyro, he's like, I don't want to hand over the corpse. Like, my legs move for a second, and I'm like, I'm thankful to be here. And like, someone as useless as me has been given a reason to live, and like all this stuff. And Gyro's just kind of like, oh, what about a corpse? Because keep in mind, Gyro has like no idea, right? So Gyro notices that Johnny has the other ball, and he's like, you know what? Let me handle this. But the kid is still pulling Johnny through Gyro and like ripping him apart. So it's just so gross. So the corpse arm starts to emerge from Johnny's arm, and the corpse arm now has we now see the writing that was carved on Johnny's arm is on the corpse arm. And he's like, you know, please just take it, just take the arm, but please leave Gyro alone. Take the hooks out of him. Just please. So the kid takes the arm, and Johnny loses his stand. He's like, my nails aren't spinning. And then Gyro's like, are you sure about that? Because it looks to me like they are spinning. And we see the kid is holding the arm, and the arm, Gyro made the nails of the arm spin. And I'm just like slow clapping over here. I'm just like, like I said, just when you think they're like at the height of their brain power, no, you ain't see nothing yet. So the nails attack the kid. They destroy him. So Gyro gets the arm back, and he gives it to Johnny. And Johnny's like, wait, you don't want this? Is this not what you were after? And Gyro's like, no, I'm here for the boy and the amnesty thing. And it's like, I told you this. Like, I'm not here for arms. Like, no. So Johnny explains the whole thing to Gyro, the real reason behind the race. And, you know, how Johnny is, like, determined now to go and collect these corpse parts. And Gyro's like, that's cool. I'm not doing that. I'm not, like, I'm here. I'm not here for that. Like, you go do your thing. But, he's like, but he says, I will tell you this. There's got to be a way to figure out whose corpse this is. And based on what Johnny's telling him, Gyro says it's probably the corpse of a saint. And so Gyro's just goes on this, like, has all this info. And I'm just like, Gyro, you're so smart. Like, you're not just hot. You're also smart. You're not just a pretty face and everything else. You really know what you're doing. So, of course, Gyro knows Latin. And he reads the words on the arm. And get this. It says, move your legs in Latin. Like, as if this whole thing couldn't all just get kind of more personalized to Johnny's own kind of like redemption and uplifting arc. So yeah. So Gyro's like, hey, do you know what constitutes a saint? Do you know like what the requirements are? And Johnny's like, he's like naming off all these saints and everything, but Gyro's like, it's a person who causes miracles, that like miracles happen, but after they die. And that's exactly what happened here. So we have at least, you know, it has to be at least 2 miracles, and we have Johnny's legs moved and his nails spun. Like, that's at least 2 right there. And so Gyro's like, look, if you want to do the corpse thing, cool, but like, don't forget I'm in this to just win the race and get my amnesty and everything. So he's like, let's do this. Let's go. And that's when they notice that Dio and Sandman are approaching them. Finn. And I love this chapter because, again, I think it's just been such a nice slow build with the friendship between Gyro and Johnny. It never feels like we hit a point where all of a sudden they were okay with each other, but the more time we spend with them, the more we can see like that bond kind of growing. And we also get a lot of info about what's going on. Like we get plotty plot, we get, you know, kind of pushing ahead with like, we know what the words mean. We know that, so this is where I was like, I was glad that you guys confirmed that this is supposed to be the corpse of Jesus, because the way that he's talking, it kind of sounds like we're still acknowledging like many of the well-known saints in the Christian faith. Like Johnny's like naming them off. And it kind of sounds like we're almost sort of approaching Jesus that way. Like Jesus is another saint in which is kind of not how it's viewed in the Christian faith. Like usually like the saints were like followers of Jesus or something, but Jesus is not, he's Jesus. Like he's kind of like the front face of the religion. But it kind of feels like they're just talking about him like he's a saint. So I'm glad that you guys cleared that up, because I think I would have gotten confused and been like, wait, is this just like any other, like you could switch this out with any other saint? So far is what it sounds like. I don't know if maybe there will be more stuff later on that we like get more into the story of like, because I'm sure if they're trying to collect all the corpse parts, it's because something is going to happen when they're all put together. And I don't know what that is, but I'm sure there's going to be like, it's going to have its own lore. And maybe there will be like a specific reason why this had to be Jesus, but it does kind of feel like we're just like approaching this, like this is a saint that we're talking about. So yeah. So also, what else was I going to say? There was something that I wanted to address. Again, which I love seeing like Johnny hopeful. It's really, really nice. And again, it's just the whole thing is very slow burn. I feel like in a shonen, we would have like these very like pivotal moments. It's not that this wasn't a pivotal moment, but it just kind of feels like we're just building very much on all of the drama. And that's why it's a seinen, I guess, and not shonen. And it's just really nice to see that we've gotten to this point where Johnny really feels like he has something to live for, you know, like he has hope. And also Gyro was great here. He always is. He always is. The whole thing with the words, I was like reading a lot into it. There is going to be more with that later with the words. And I think you'll be, if you have not read it or you've not read it in a long time, I think you'll be very interested to see like where they go with that. Is that all I wanted to say about this shit? Yeah, I think we're good. The pork pie hat kid he's done. Okay, chapter 28. Here we go. So they're racing against Dio and Sandman now, because remember they like gained on him. When a newspaper flies up into Johnny's face, and he's shocked by what he sees, and he tells Gyro like, "Oh my God, look at this." There's a picture on the newspaper of a mountain that's shaped just like the cruce, the letters. So like one half of the letters that were etched onto his arm. And there's a mountain that's shaped just like you could see the outline. So Johnny figures out like, oh my God, these aren't letters. They're that mountain. And I think that we're being like told, we're being guided to like the next corpse part on this mountain. And because Gyro looks away for a second when Johnny tells him to, he ends up coming in last place of the 4 of them. And he's so mad at Johnny. And I guess, like, you can't blame him. Like, he just said he was going to be first. So, cut to Stephen Steele. He's like, Gyro, you've made it, but like, I can't help you from here. And I'm like, ooh, mysterious. So we see one of the president's henchmen presents a cloth that was from Pork Pie Hat Kid with the letters, the Latin letters scorched into it. So they kind of start putting this together, president and the henchmen and everything. They start to put together that, like, it's Johnny that they're after, not Gyro. Johnny's the one who has the corpse part. So the president does this thing. At first I'm like, what do you do? Is this just one of those like weird things that we're going to do with a villain just because we can? There is a point to it, but he does this thing. He's like, do you want to see how to drink like a whole beer all at once? And he like sticks it with a pen and he like drinks it upright, which is weird because now that I'm saying it, didn't Jojo do something like that once? Like when we see him in the prison, I feel like maybe he did that, but I can't remember now. Did he not do that where he stuck the pen in the can and just like drank it upright? Or am I like, did I just make that up? I feel like I didn't make that up. But yeah, so it's like all over the place and he's making a mess. But he crushes the beer can and he uses it, the whole point of this whole endeavor, he uses it to like show on the cloth, like where it must have been scorched and like what the shape must have been. So he determines by the thickness and placement and all this stuff that it must have been the arm. It must have been an arm. That was the part that he had. So then this is the part I was like, oh my God, I don't remember writing this in my notes and it better be in here. The president reveals, he's like, okay, so now we know where two of them are, because guess what? And he opens his shirt and he has the heart. The president has the heart. So I don't know. I'm trying to think, is it later that they're going to tell? Maybe I should hold off on this because there's a lot of connection between Johnny's stand and the arm. And I don't think it works that way for every person. So I don't know. I mean, the president must have a stand because he's going to be like the main villain. But we still don't really know any details. Or if like the stand came from the heart. But he has the heart. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So they decide, you know what? Let Johnny's after the next one. Let's let him go find it and make it easier for us. And they're like sending an assassin. But Lucy is listening right outside the room this whole time they're talking. And I think the president noticed. And I'm like, I'm worried for her. I really don't. I cringe every time she's around because she's so young and I just don't want anything to happen to her. I just need everyone to leave her alone. So we cut back to Gyro and what's going on with them, and he's like ranking up the points in his head, and he's like, that stinking Johnny, like, I can't believe him, promise breaking son of a... He's like real mad because he's ranking up the points in his head, and he's like, I'm never going to catch up. But that's when they notice Dio, and they're like, hey, is that Dio? Because he's looking kind of bad, and he fell off his horse, he's bleeding, then he's like on the ground, like kind of in like this half fetal position. He's like, he's not okay. So Johnny's like, let's get out of here. We don't want to mess with Dio. And Gyro's like, you know what? Ordinarily, I would be right there with you. Like usually I just kind of like point and laugh or something like that. But Gyro, we know he's really a good boy because he wants to save that little boy. But he can also be a little, cheeky. He's like, ordinarily, I'd agree, but you know what? This could be life-threatening. Like, we need to just go check it out and see if he needs help. So Johnny's like, no, I'm telling you, he's bad news. And he goes into this thing about how he like married an elderly woman for her money, and then she like mysteriously died. And a lot of people think that like he killed her, and I'm just like, wow, because we know that Dio, like back in our OG universe, he was big on the poison. He poisoned his dad, and then he did poison George, his adopted dad. So I'm like, I just kind of want to believe that like new universe Dio is kind of, here's the thing. Diego's really hot. And I kind of want to believe that given the opportunity, Araki would give us kind of a nicer Dio that we can actually simp for in peace. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, Like first Dio, I was done on day one with the dog thing with Danny. No. Done. Of course he's hot. Of course, like part 6 Dio, I had to really remind myself that he killed a dog. But no. Diego, on the other hand, I'm kind of hoping for like, and just wait for it. I promise it's worth it. Because he definitely is way more sympathetic and I think likable than original Dio. Of course, I love Dio as a villain. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't just like hate Dio and wish he'd never. Well, I do, for the Joestar's sake, wish he had never existed. But like, I like him as a villain. He's probably my favorite villain, honestly. Like OG Universe Dio. Because he's like their Joker. He's iconic, you know. But yeah, so I'm just hoping for like kind of a nicer Dio that I can just simp for happily. And I like to think that maybe he didn't kill the older woman. You know, maybe that, I don't know, having a young husband, maybe your heart couldn't take it. You know? But maybe she died happy, is all I'm saying. Maybe it was natural causes. We'll just leave it at that. All right, so enough about Diego and his former wife, his deceased wife. Okay, so where was I? Johnny's like, I don't want to mess with this guy. I don't want to mess with him. Oh yeah, okay, so they get up to Dio, and they're like, hey, are you dead? Do you want us to call the rescue team? And he looks up, and you notice there's like scales on his wrist, and his nails are all long and nasty, so we know something's going on with him. My best guess in the scene is like he's getting his stand. So he perks right up and he's like, go away, like I Dio am gonna he doesn't say I Dio, but it's a total I Dio moment. He's like, I'm the one who's gonna win, like, leave me alone. And Gyro's like, cool, you're not dead, you seem fine, let's get out of here. Like, our job here is done. So he's still looking pretty bad after that, and there's like all these bones around him that resemble some kind of like large creature. Put a pin in that for later. So Diego catches up with them and is like, hey, there's like all kinds of beasts out here, and he's telling this story about how he was surrounded by a group of snakes and cougars, like two different groups, one snakes, one cougars, and he's like, he says he was able to get away by going past the snakes. He's like, you want to know why? Because they were asleep and snoring. And he just keeps going with like these dad snake jokes. And he's like, come on, I'm joking. So like, first of all, he's totally fine. Second of all, he is corny as heck, and I'm loving it. I'm loving that we get like cuter, like, well, he looks the same as Dio, so like they're both cute, but cute, maybe nicer, corny, silly Dio. Like, I'm here for it, you guys. I'm sold. I'm sold on it in just a way where they're gonna sell us so much more. You have no idea. Okay, you might have an idea, actually, because probably a lot of you have read this, but, and he's like, I feel so amazing, and they're like, wow, you were, like, dying earlier, so Johnny notices the scales on his skin, and that, like, spikes are starting to come out of his back, and I think we all see where this is starting to go, and Diego's, like, doing these tricks, like, standing, like, doing, like, not a headstand, but it kind of looks like one on his horse, and it's like, wow, you know, you're really flexible for a guy who was, like, literally dying earlier. So it's nighttime and there are wolves, and they're like, you know what, we don't want to mess with wolves and our horses and everything. Let's stay at this little village in the mountains. And they get there and like everyone knows them, and Gyro's like, hey. It's just kind of this fun moment. So Johnny's like, they're checking in, and he's like, where's Diego? Where did he go? And he's like, I don't know, maybe he's off talking to some villagers or something. I'm gonna go get wood for the fire. I'll be right back. So Johnny's just chilling, he's making coffee, and he notices Diego like outside the room, and Diego is eating rocks. Yes, you heard that right. He's eating little round pebbles. He's eating them. And his head like snaps around like in an animalistic way. And he starts like sniffing. And he's like, is that coffee? And Johnny's just like, get out. What are you doing? And Diego's like, oh, that thing with the rocks earlier? Don't worry about that. That's for digestion. Like birds and alligators do it all the time. It's totally normal, not weird. And Johnny's just like, huh? So Johnny's like, look, get your coffee, get out. Like, I don't want you here. He's not having it. And Diego just starts sniffing so cutely. He's like, sniff. He's so cute. He's so cute. His dad jokes, his sniffing, his hotness. It's all working, you guys. It's all working. I just gotta tell you, like, I think I might be falling in love with Diego. Hey, to admit it, never thought I would be in love with any iteration of Dio. Here we are. Here we are. All right, so Diego's like, excuse me, but which one of these is my coffee? Like, which one of these is which one can I have? And Johnny's like, there's only one cup there, and it's right there. The rest of them are all cans, like, very clearly. He's like, can't you see? And Diego's like, he snatches a fly out of the air, and he's like, of course I can see. Like, I, Dio, have the best. He does not say I, Dio, at any point in this chapter. I just want to let you know. But, like, my brain is just filling in the blanks. So yeah. So Johnny moves the cup a little, and Dio's able to, like, snatch it up once it moves. And he gulps it down, and Johnny notices he has, like, little teeth on the side. Like, not here, not where the teeth should be. Up here. On the side of his face, like going up the side of his face. So then Gyro bursts in and he's like, Johnny, what is going on with all these flies? Have you not noticed there's a ton of flies in here? And he's like, close out that window fast. But guess what? The flies aren't the only problem. There's something out there. And they go outside and there's a half-eaten dead bear. And then Diego turns into a dinosaur. Finn. Because where are we supposed to go from Diego turns into a dinosaur? I feel like you really just hit the pinnacle right there. End the chapter. Roll credits. Okay, so I'll talk about this one too. This is a really, we kind of like switch gears in this one and we're focusing on Diego. This is like the beginning of like starting to tell Diego's story. And we will get more of that in future chapters. So we do get a little bit on, like, we know that, like, the letters aren't just letters anymore, which I think is really clever. I would have guessed that the letters were going to be some kind of clue, or they meant something, or they, you know, and they do, but, like, I kind of like that in the end, like, they weren't even, like, they were more than just letters. I think that was kind of an interesting twist. So we clearly see that, like, by this point, we're all getting the idea that, like, okay, like, we're dealing with some powerful stuff here. Like, we're being guided. One thing I did want to say, because I don't think I said it at the end of the last chapter, was, you know, when we had, I was talking about this in this chapter, and I didn't get to mention it, so I'm going to go back. We were talking about the whole heart thing. The heart part that the president has. Going back to Johnny, we see that when he loses the arm, he very clearly loses his stand. So the stand for Johnny is linked to the arm. I don't think that the other stand users have corpse parts because the other stand users are being sent to collect the corpse parts. I think they got their stand from the Devil's Palm or any other way. Like, maybe, I don't know. Like, I think we've seen, like, maybe one other person who has actually had one before this whole thing. But everyone else, we can assume they got it in the Devil's Palm. But Johnny, I think one really interesting thing to note is that it seems to be the arm that gave him the stand power. Like, when he lost the arm, he lost the stand. And that's something we've never really seen before because we know, like, from part 6, okay, losing your stand, you're done. Like, that's your soul. Like, you lose that, you're done. Can lose the memories, but can't lose the stand and live to tell about it. Here, I think this is a really interesting concept to think that, like, he has, like, partial, like, I mean, are we to imply that like this is like a like more of a deity situation, that like he has like powers granted by Jesus or so, like, because that's kind of how it's, you know, like the arm chose him. The arm chose him, and the arm gave him a stand. And we can see, and this is just going to get more and more and more, like they're being guided. Like it almost feels like a, you know, if you know the story of like the three wise men who were like guided by the star, you know, like a big, everyone, like not everyone, but like a lot of people know the story about like the Christmas star and everything, and like guided them to Jesus when he was a baby. It's starting to kind of feel like that. Like they're being guided, and you'll see more of this in later chapters. Like it actually does have to do with stars, and like it's starting to feel a little bit like supernatural. You know what I mean? Like this is Johnny's purpose, and like he has been chosen, and he is like being guided by all these elements related to his stand in the arm. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And I'm glad that I remembered to say that, because I started thinking about it when I was talking about the president, and I'm like, ooh, I should really mention that, because like I think he's like the only one who has a stand power from a part. I would be really surprised if, given everything that we know about how this is playing out, like it's almost like a hero thing, almost this kind of feeling like a hero's journey thing. I'll be really surprised if the president had a stand that he got from the heart. You know what I mean? I'll be surprised by that. I could be wrong. But anyway, so yeah. So we do learn that president has one of the parts. So we know 2, and there's only like, I think there's only so many. Did they say it was like 6 or 9? I can't remember. I'll clarify that for next time. But yeah, so we had Gyro coming in last, which he was pretty upset about. We had the whole thing with like finding out what the words really are, maybe are supposed to represent. Lucy maybe getting in trouble. I hope not. And we're having a big focus on Diego right now, and I'm here for it. He's so stinking cute. He's so funny. He's definitely like an antagonist. Like he's not on their side or anything. He's not like a bro. I don't think this is gonna happen. I'm really hoping this is gonna be like a part 4 situation where like they're gonna fight him and he's gonna end up being a bro. You know? I'm really hoping. Given some of the stuff coming in the chapters, I don't know. Don't know if we're gonna do that. I don't know. But I really hope so, because I'm really liking him. I know there were probably a lot of people who felt like, you know, Dio got a little bit more developed as the parts went on, like original Dio. And I think what we have here is the benefit of Araki being at such a level in his craft that like he is starting from scratch and creating like a very human, very like layered Dio right from the start. And so far he has not hurt a dog. I'd like to point out, if I see him hurt a dog, that's it, we're done. We can't come back from that. So far he hasn't hurt any dogs, and he is looking pretty cute. Right now he's a dinosaur, but before the whole dinosaur thing, it's looking pretty good. All right, so big highlight of this one is Dio is a dinosaur now. Just let that wash over you for a second. Dio is a dinosaur. That was so well timed. Buffy, it's okay, baby. Buffy's alarmed. But I guess my poster could not handle the news about Dio. It's okay, baby. Everything's alright. Mama's okay. Mama's alright, honey. It's okay. It's just some stuff fell. She's a little scared of that poster because it falls every once in a while and she gets a little freaked out. It's okay, honey. You can go sniff it if you want. It's not going to hurt you. You want to go sniff? You want to stay with mommy. Okay. Alright, so getting back to the story. I'll fix all that after. For now, you're going to have kind of a not as pretty background to look at, but it's okay. I'll have a lot of screenshots on the screen. So, all right, let's just jump right into 29. So Dio, actually 29 doesn't look like it's, I think 29 is a big action-y one. So we're kind of like moving through it real fast because we want to get to 30. Trust me when I tell you we want to get to 30. So Dio tail whips Gyro halfway across this village, and Gyro starts tumbling down a mountain. Johnny tries to fight him, but Dio can dodge the nail shots. And they're going to explain why in a second. So Gyro throws a ball at him, and he dodges that also at like really close range due to what's called dynamic vision. So this is going to be like a thing now that like he has this like special dinosaur vision. Oh, but it has dynamic, like dino. I don't think that's why, but I don't know. So he pins Gyro and figures out that, so he pins Gyro, and Gyro figures out that Dio can only see things that they're moving, which we kind of knew from the last, like the coffee thing, like he could only see the coffee when the cup was moving around. So Gyro kicks a can to draw his attention away, and it explodes in Dio's face. And it turns out that Gyro put a steel ball in the can. He's like, don't ask me how I did it, but I did it. Like, you know what, babe? You got your ways. I get it. We're good. So Gyro, yeah, I want to make sure I didn't skip anything. Gyro explains to Johnny what a dinosaur is, because, yeah, Johnny doesn't know what a dinosaur is. And I'm like, I'm genuinely asking, did people in the 1800s not know about dinosaurs? Like, that's probably gonna sound really, really stupid to a lot of you. That kind of like was like, oh, okay, I guess we just didn't really know much about dinosaurs then. Like, I don't really know when a lot of information was discovered about dinosaurs. Personally, some of you out there, I'm sure, have a lot more knowledge. I know have a lot more knowledge than I do. But yeah, so he's like, a dino what now? And Gyro has to explain basically what a dinosaur is. And he explains also that Dio is getting this stand that's a dinosaur. It might be because of fossils being found in the Rocky Mountain area. So this is another really interesting thing that we're learning about stands. Like in the past, like you get a stand, and at first it was just like you just got a random sand that was a tarot card. And then it was like an Egyptian god. And then we kind of move into this idea that like, no, it kind of reflects your soul, right? Like it reflects you as a person. And now we're moving into like, Jesus can give you a stand, I guess. Guess it's a thing now. And also that like your like environment can like affect your stand. You know, so like if you're, you know, so like say I got my sand and I was in a pile of kittens. Do I become Catwoman? Like that's we're kind of like, I feel like we're expanding the lore. So Johnny's arm starts lighting up where it's carved, and a corresponding part of the mountain also starts to light up. So like we are definitely being guided. So Johnny says to like stay still and he won't be able to see, and it works. Like if you're not moving, it's kind of like a Jurassic Park thing. Like if so, and it works. But he starts to sniff them out. He starts to come back because he's like using, remember the little sniffer he was using? He starts to use that. And they have to stay totally still while he's like, it really is like a Jurassic Park moment. He's like right up on them. And, but then Dio figures out the steel ball will return to Gyro. So he tries to use that to find them. And Gyro does this awesome thing. He just like, it's coming at him and he just like hip chucks it. He just like uses his hip and thigh and like bounces it away. And Dio goes chasing after it, but he like pounces on Gyro a little bit as he does it. And Johnny's like, oh my God, are you all right? He's like, yeah, it's all good. Like when I did the hip chuck thing, I flattened my legs and we're all good. Because otherwise that would be really bad to have a dinosaur stomp on your legs. So Gyro mentions he's like, hey, I noticed something about the placement of those letters on your arm. But then they're like interrupted by a noise. And they see something that kind of looks like the bear fur, but it has crumbly scales on it, and a dinosaur emerges from the bear. Yeah. Really putting the bizarre in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure right now. So Gyro explains that the letters are a map that uses constellations to guide them to the next corpse part. And the current one is actually the Big Dipper. So they determine from that the corpse must be on the hill ahead of them. And that's Finn chapter 29. And this is where I'm like, okay, this is real. There's a lot of elements in here. Because first of all, we always have stuff with stars. Because, you know, Joe stars and everything is a big symbol. They actually, have we seen the star on Johnny's back yet or no? I feel like we have not seen that much of his like back or shoulder revealed. Or neck. But I could be wrong. But I'm assuming they all still have the star in this universe. I don't know. Maybe they don't. But anyway, I mean, his name is Joe Star. And we know that, like, the star is always going to be, like, it's kind of a symbol in this whole series. And so there's that. There's also, like I was saying, like, it feels like they are just, like, being guided. Like, they're on, like, they're, like, on sort of this, like, this supernatural mission, you know? Like, I don't know. It's starting to feel a little bit more. I mean, it's definitely more than a race now. But it's definitely starting to feel like there's a reason they're here, you know? Okay, so guys, I need you to mentally prep yourselves for chapter 30. I need you to get a snack. I need you to get a drink. It doesn't have to be an alcoholic drink, but I think maybe you're going to want one. If you so indulge, you might want one for this. Chapter 30, last one of the day. Here we go. And I'm already in an hour. I'm sorry, guys. So we start off, we see this very poor, like impoverished couple, this impoverished village in Britain. They are very, very poor, and they have decided that they cannot care for their newborn child. So they dig a hole, they wrap him up, and we have another set of people just really vying for that JoJo Parent of the Year award, you guys. I'm not over all the, like, dead baby stuff from part 6. I don't need more. I want to adopt all these little babies that are hurt on the show. I want to adopt every single baby. I kind of want to adopt Tusk, the little pink baby. He's fine. I don't think he's hurting in any way, but he's so cute. And I want to adopt this baby. And guess who this baby is? That you probably already guessed whose backstory this is. But okay, so they put him in a hole. But it rained and it flooded and the baby washed up into the river. And they see him. They like see the baby floating. Because at first I'm like, is this going to be like a baby Moses thing? You know? Like there's somebody's going to get him and no. The parents see him. Like, I think the baby Moses thing would have been a happier direction to take this story in. No, the parents see him, and the mom's like, oh my God, there he is, and she like calls out to him, and it's Diego. And the dad is just like, in every universe, Dio just got the crap end of the stick with dads. This poor man, not, because original Dio was poor nothing, although I do feel bad that his dad was abusive, but just in every universe, this dad sucks. And he's horrible. He's like, I can't believe you named him. Like, we have to let him go. Come on, like, we'll have more babies someday. Don't worry about it. And the mom is like, look, I don't care about money. Like, if you would just quit your drinking, like, maybe we can. And he's like, how dare you, woman? Blah, blah, blah. And like, your husband, how dare you? And so I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, we got, you know, another winner. Another winner is Dio's dad. He just can't win, you guys. So the mom jumps in the water, goes after the baby. She's like, I'm not letting my baby get away again. And the dad's just like, you know what? Now I'm rid of both of them. See ya. And yeah, it's like that. So she saves him and she washes up, I guess, on this farm. This farm employee finds her. And the farm life was horrible. Like, she and Diego were basically like, they worked like dogs and they were horribly poor. But Diego was the cutest, happiest little baby, you guys. Look at him. I'm going to put him up on the screen. first thing that I thought, first thing, he looks like a baby Giorno. He looks like a little miniature Giorno. And I know Giorno did not look like that at this age. Like, he still had the black hair and everything. But look at how much he looks like Giorno. It cannot be a coincidence. He almost has donuts, you guys. His little curls, they're almost like donuts. He's so cute. And he's so sweet. And you know what I actually was thinking while I was reading this? I was like, he's so sweet and, like, upbeat and everything. You could say, like, yeah, it's just like it's another universe. Dio, you know, like maybe in this one he was just like a happy-go-luckier kid. Certainly the circumstances aren't contributing much to that, but maybe you could just say that, right? Think about it. In this one, his mom lived, and even though they had a horrible life, like the dad wasn't around. And like maybe Dio, if the dad hadn't been abusing him and everything, like he wasn't born evil. Like, I know Speedwagon said, like, he's just evil. Like, he's just, but I mean, come on, nobody's born evil. You know what I mean? So, like, it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder. But he is a sweetie pie. He is such an adorable little baby. He is so sweet. There's not, like, 1 ounce of malice in this baby. And it just, I could not stop thinking about this backstory, you guys. Like, I'll get into it more after. Because, like, I've just been wanting to cry for, like, the last few days. So, the farmhand who originally found them and saved them is trying to the mom. And yeah, it's really one of those stories where it just gets ickier and ickier and ickier, you guys. So, she's like, no, please stop. And I guess it turns out they're like having an affair, but she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want my son to find out. Like, you're a married man with kids. And I'm like, oh my God, this just gets worse. And so he's like, oh, fine, if that's the way you want it. And I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen to them now? So we see them, they're in line for food, and there are holes in their cups. They're little cups that they get their little porridge or whatever it is in. And the guy is the one who's serving. He's like, oh, that's too bad. Well, I guess you're going to have to pay for those since they're like damaged property. And of course they don't have any money. And the mom's like, I'm sorry, can we please pay you like next time I get paid? And he's like, oh, we don't do any advances here. Sorry. And baby Diego's like trying to come up with all these solutions. And he's like, we could use one of these little like animal pails. And the guy's like, what's the matter with you? That's for animals. And I'm like, and he's like, it's so sweet. I want to cry. I want to cry. I love Diego. I love Diego now. Like, I liked him before. Now I love him. He's like, Mama, we could use our shoes. And she slaps him. And I'm like, I know it wasn't the most logical suggestion, but he's like 5. I don't know why she slapped him. I don't know. I mean, she did originally try to kill her baby, so let's not pretend that this lady is, you know, has the best judgment. I know she really regretted it. She went in and saved him, but like, we're already starting off not strong with this whole situation. So like, she slaps him, but then we see her going over to the guy and she holds out her hands. You see where this is going? And she's like, please pour the burning hot porridge in my hands. Like, just Dio's portion. I just want to make sure that he eats. And Dio's like freaking out. He's like, Mama, I'm not hungry. Please don't do it. And she's like, so they do it. The guy does it and burns. And this lady like barely even flinches, like doesn't even wince. Takes the burning hot porridge in her hands. It's clearly like burned the crap out of her hands, and goes to Dio. And she's like, you have to eat this so you get strong and you can protect your mom one day. And I'm like, please get me out of here. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here. I don't like it here. And so he's like crying and screaming, but he eats it. And surprise, surprise, the mom dies not too long after that. And he's convinced that she got tetanus, and he's convinced that it's from the wounds on her hands from being burned so severely. So we see him like older and bitter, and who could blame him? And he's like swears revenge on all these, like the guy who was responsible for it, the farmhand, and like all these just like every crummy, crappy person who got in their way. I just, like, I can't blame him. I'm like, oh my God, I would absolutely also be pretty bitter. And he was such a sweet baby, though. He was so sweet. I hate, and no pun intended, but I hate that the world just took that away from him. I really do. So his mom's last words to him were that, like, please don't blame yourself. This was my fault. And, like, but someday when you're older, please, like, try riding one of the horses, because you have, like, this way with the horses, and I think you have, like, this talent for riding. And so, like, in a way, this is all, like, because of his mom. So, yeah. It's really rough, you guys. I've been thinking about it, like, every day and trying not to cry. It's so sad. And man, it's gotta be, like, we've had some real sad backstories. It's gotta be right up there. Would you not agree? So we cut back to the present day and the fight with Dino Dio. Johnny and Gyro are trying to make their way through the sewage to get away from Dio. And they're planning to make their way to the corpse part, but Johnny's worried. He's like, won't Dio eat the horses? And Gyro's like, nah, you know, like, he's after the hand. Plus, like, a jockey wouldn't do that. Wouldn't, like, eat somebody's horse. And I'm like, I feel like original universe Dio definitely would have done that. I'm hoping Diego is a little bit nicer. Like, especially after that backstory, like, just seeing what it's... And I know that being a sweet baby and having all those horrible things happen to him does not excuse anything he does in the present day. I understand that. But, like, God, like, how can you not just love him? He looked like a baby Giorno. He looked like Giorno if you shrunk him. All right. So they hear something, and it turns out there's a bunch of tiny dinosaurs coming after them. Now, I don't think, this is the thing that I was like, I don't think I had this in my notes, but they're mice. Dio turned the mice into dinosaurs. Maybe I did have that in my notes. Never mind. So Johnny tries to fire the tusk nails, but they have the same dynamic vision that Dio does, so it doesn't work. And the dinosaurs start peeing on them. And it's really weird, but there's actually a reason for it. They're going to use that scent of their own pee to, like, track them. So Johnny and Gyro are literally on the rocks. The dinos are after them. Gyro figures out that Dio is turning everything and everyone in the village, like animals, people, into dinosaurs that are now, like, under his control. Now, does this sound familiar to you? Because it should, because this is, like, what Dio does with, like, the zombies and everything in part 1. He's basically making, like, zombie dinosaurs, essentially. Also, like, kind of turn them. It's very, like, vampiric and everything. He has to eat them to turn them and everything. Well, maybe he doesn't have to... Oh, I know what he does. Okay, we'll get to that, because he does have to do something to them to turn them. Johnny and Gyro notice they're starting to turn into dinosaurs too, because they got scratched in the scuffle with Dio earlier and everything, and it only has to be a little scratch. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit like zombie rules, it's a little bit like vampire rules. It's always kind of been a little bit of a mix of both, because a lot of his, like, minions were, like, zombies, but they're also, like, vampires, so... So Gyro's like, don't move. He sent out the smaller ones to find us. And Johnny's like, no, like, we have to fight. Like, we've got to fight our way through this. And Gyro's like, you know what? What we really need to do is we need to get to the next corpse part. Because Johnny, don't know if you noticed, but your transformation is starting to slow down. It's almost like the arm is, like, healing it. It's like healing, like it's an infection. And, like, taking it out of your body. So if Gyro can get one of the parts, then theoretically he will also start to stop transforming into a dinosaur. So Gyro's like, okay, I see an opening to the canyon. We're going to jump. And Johnny's like, ain't no way I'm going to jump. And Johnny's, Gyro throws his steel balls at the trees ahead and makes the bark of the trees into ropes that they use to climb across. And I'm just like, again, I'll say it for, like, the 5th time this reaction. Just when you think they can't get any more clever, here we freaking go. So they get over there and the sand starts moving. It's like it's reacting. The part is reacting to Johnny's arm. And the position of the rocks is like a palm, which they notice like the devil's palm, which is like, oh my God, it's all connected. So Gyro's like, hey, I'm getting worse. You have to like climb and find this thing. Please hurry. And Dio catches up to them. And Johnny starts to see this like figure forming from the sand. And he's like, he thought it was a statue. And he's like, no, that's a stand. And I'm like, it is? Huh? And it's holding something in its hands. It's the eyes. It's the eyes. We found the next parts. So Gyro's like, please hurry. And he also says that he can like, because he's like turning into a dinosaur now, he can like clearly see that Dio has knocked 2 of the dinosaurs off of the cliff and is now jumped off of the cliff himself. And that's when we see Dio show up, full dinosaur, swoops in, takes the eyes, and they're like, oh my God, he got the eyes. And I say, like, I think they say turbo on them. I think they say turbo on them. I'm pretty sure. You can't see all the letters, but my brain is kind of filling in the rest. Finn! That is the end of chapter 30, and that is the end of our batch for today. So, since I went over and kind of reviewed, like, every, the different chapters as I was talking about them, I won't go over the whole thing again. I will just say that overall, I loved this. Again, big highlights for me. We're getting to see the stand, getting to know the name of the stand, getting to know Diego better, getting to see Johnny, like, really kind of have, like, sort of this realization that, like, he's meant for something. Like, he's supposed to be here. And this is, like, his mission. And he's going to do it. And Gyro's a good guy. And he wants to do it with Gyro. So I'm just like, yes. I love this. So I'm all about it. I every time I read this, like, it's better and better each batch. And each batch is something I don't expect, because I never saw the thing with, like, the corpse and all that coming. And I think, like, having his stand be very, like, attached to this idea of, like, the arm choosing him, and now it, like, gave him a stand. I think that's really interesting. Again, we're getting some really interesting, just, like, no pun intended, interesting spins on stands in this. And it's, like, no longer just, like, only a reflection of yourself. It can be something else that, like, chose you. It can be your environment at the time, like a fall. You happen to be touching a fossil or something, and, like, you became a dinosaur. But yeah, Diego's backstory. Why do we have so many suffering little boys on the show? On this series? Why? It's because they know they got hit me here. And they always do. They always do. Never fails. If I had to describe the whole series at this point, in 3 words, it would be cowboys, Jesus, and suffering boys. Those kind of like the big 3 highlights of the series so far. But yeah, guys, it was so good. I'm loving, again, just having, like, kind of a new take on Dio. And he's not Dio. He's very much like his own person, but you can see a lot of, like, Dio's kind of, like, stuck up, like, chip on his shoulder. But he's actually kind of, I hate to say justified, but in this context, you can almost kind of see it a little bit better. He's not gone on himself. He's got something to prove, you know? And I'm loving his character. Really hoping, I know the whole, like, killing all the villagers thing and turning them into dinosaurs isn't looking great for the whole Joe Bro thing. But I'm really kind of hoping that, like, even if it's, I hate to say this, but even if it was like I've seen the error of my ways and I'm going to self-sacrifice to help you guys out, I would really like to see him come over to the bro side. I would really like that. I don't know if it's going to happen. But yeah, so now we have the eyes, of course. The eyes say turbo. Well, Dio's got the eyes. I'm hoping we can get them back. I'm guessing that we're not just going to turn Gyro into a dinosaur at this point. Of course, then again, anyone turning into a dinosaur at this point in the story was not something that... It's not something you would generally expect to happen. So yeah, the whole dinosaur thing is It's something new, you guys. It's something new. So yeah. So we have all that. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed. We know that the president has the heart. So now we're on the third known part of the corpse. I think that's pretty much it. If I missed anything or if I think of something I want to say, I will maybe just add it to my next reaction. But I feel like I really kind of maybe going over them chapter by chapter. I don't know. How did you guys feel about this? Did you like me going over it chapter by chapter and then just doing kind of like a big highlight reel like this, and this happened? I'm liking it. I feel like it worked a lot better for this one, this particular batch. In the future, I don't know, because in past batches I've been like, I really can't talk about this effectively without telling you everything else that happened. So maybe we could do it case by case, I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed reading, discussing along with me. These were some really amazing chapters. Like I said, I'm so here for Diego. I'm so here. Not just because I want to fall in love with him, but because I just think that this is just an amazing take on this character. And again, love the bond between Johnny and Gyro. Love where we're going with it really is starting to feel like this is their journey. This is their mission. We're just getting a lot of great stuff. Love what they're doing with stands. Again, all the stands are much more animalistic. We have not yet seen have we? I don't think we have yet seen a kind of a robotic looking stand, which I think is kind of interesting. So we're just doing a lot of great stuff. I hope you enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed these chapters. Next time, I think we're probably going to do the next 5. That seems to be working pretty well. So please be sure to join me next time. I'll need your help for all of the just absolute ridiculousness, awesome ridiculousness that is this whole story. Please be sure to join me next time, and we will read it together. Bye for now, guys.